Phase 4 of Season of Discovery has been out for about a week or so now, raising the level cap to 60, adding new runes into the game, and giving players a first look at the start of the end game of this seasonal server. And to be honest, for me it must be the first classic release ever where I haven't really already put some serious time into the game, achieve a level cap, and I'd usually be working on gearing up too. I have a character ready to go, of course. I've even gone and got my world buffs and consumes, but I'm kind of sitting there in thorium point, and I keep thinking I'll get started on it soon enough because I do want to at least experience Phase 4 for a review in some capacity at the end of SOD, but I can't just seem to take that first step and get back into Season of Discovery in Phase 4. And I've been thinking about, why has this been happening for me specifically? So obviously there's going to be a lot of personal takes here. Maybe you'll feel the same way, maybe not. There might even be some spicy takes in here as well. But overall I just can't help the feeling that Phase 4 isn't going to be enough to bring me back to Season of Discovery. Well, at least not for long anyways, and here's why that's happened. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Boot.dev. Boot.dev gives ambitious and self-motivated individuals the tools to get fully on board with the Python and Go programming languages. Where it's different is it treats this learning process as though it's an RPG with goals, experience, and achievements. This keeps you engaged with the topic you're on, as well as allowing you to track what you've done so far. And one of the main things they want to get you doing on your learning journey is writing tons of your own code, so you can get that first-hand understanding of what works and, more importantly, why. And if you just wanted to check out Boot.dev before committing to anything, it really is risk-free. All the content is free to read and watch in guest mode, and on top of that there's a 30 days no questions asked refund policy, as well as a free demo of every course and its interactive features. Boot could very well be the start to a career with high earnings and maybe even remote work positions too, so if coding's something you have been considering, why not give them a try? You can click the link in the description box and use my code WillE to get 25% off your first payment for Boot.dev. That'll be 25% your first month, or yeah, depending on the subscription you choose. Many thanks to Boot.dev for the sponsor today. Let's get back to WoW. Getting back into Season of Discovery is coming after a huge break for me. I played Phase 1 a lot, I did BFD loads, I leveled every character to 25, and I even got all of the runes on every single class. Okay fine, apart from the Grisby rune, I'm not made of gold. And I was playing solidly from Phase 1 into Phase 2. That rolled around, I did a bunch of Noma, did some leveling, got the runes, but I dropped down to about 3 or 4 characters. And in Phase 3 I leveled and got, well, some of the runes on about 2 characters, and so in Phase 4 I'm kind of in this weird spot now. I have some of the runes but not others, and I'm gonna have to backtrack and go and get them if I do want to continue playing really. I've completed some bits of zones but not others because I just keep out leveling them. We have this huge XP buff and it's like the whole 1 to 60 experience has become very disjointed with Blizzard consistently speeding things up. I've said this many times but I get why they're doing this. It's a seasonal server, but rushing people towards the end game is just a mistake, and one they've made before as well, because they did this in Season of Mastery too by giving people an experience buff early on, as well as focusing the majority of the new content on classic raids. And in Season of Discovery, we're kind of going in that same direction once again. I don't know about you, but for me the best bit of classic has always been 1 to 60. You know, on 2019 Classics re-release, I leveled every class in the game from 1 to 60, including 2 warlocks. I even ended up making a video about it and my experiences, and you know what I did when I hit 60 on every single character apart from my main and my ult of course? I logged out and I did not play them again until TBC. Okay fine, I used them for professionals, but endgame was kind of the end of the game if you will. Back then of course I was actively raiding whatever raid was out at the moment, but I didn't really want to do it on more characters than I had to. I just wanted to get the experience and really to have completed that objective that I never did back in the day. But faster leveling overall doesn't feel as though it fits into a vanilla universe. I get that it's problematic when you have a seasonal server on your hands, but 150% bonus XP and the new runes has me feeling like I'm playing a different version of the game where you blast through the content so fast that you outlevel a zone halfway through, and you don't even get to see some of the legendary quests all the way through, such as killing Morbent Fell, finishing the Hebbit Nessingary quests and STV and so on. It's kind of like how questing is in Wrath, but even faster. All in all, faster leveling just gets me to endgame sooner, and that's not why I'm playing vanilla. Let's talk a bit more about the endgame though, and what there is to expect. There's a new dungeon of course, which I definitely plan to check out in time, and the different heat levels for Molten Core, which will surely change up the experience to a certain degree. But what I'm seeing at the moment is a lot of your standard classic endgame pre-bis farming, except everyone wants tier 0.5 now, and itemization makes a bit more sense. And when I look to the endgame of classic and think about how it was back in 2019 for its re-release, I just don't feel the need to revisit that experience anytime soon. I did the full pre-bis farm, I farmed 2 Briarwood Reeds on different characters, I completed every raid, and I think a big part of it for me now is that Cataclysm has come around, and for endgame content is really the experience I've been looking for since Classic has come out. In vanilla it was always, wait for this raid, this one will be the hard one, AQ40 will be challenging, ooh, pre-nerf Cthulhu, watch out. Okay, but then like 1% of the player base did Nax back in the day and so on and so forth. And this carried on into TBC and into Wrath too. And though some fights definitely got more challenging, your tier 5 M bosses, Muru, Ulduar hard modes, ICC heroic, often the gameplay was still somewhat lacking for me. It was just missing something. And I've realized from raiding that for me, if there isn't some degree of challenge or that feeling of overcoming bad RNG by using your class's toolkit, I kind of get bored with the format pretty fast. Vanilla in itself is a game about preparation and knowledge over ability and reactions. Did you get all your world buffs? Did you farm your gold for consumes? Did you farm your resistance gear for this fight and so on? Because if you check all those boxes, bosses in raids are going to fall over with little resistance. And honestly, they should do. Can you imagine a game where content is actively tuned around needing world buffs or consumables? Yeah, sorry guys, you wiped one time on this boss, go and get your world buffs again, you can try again in an hour or so, and that's if you have a summoning network ready. So again, for me, a big part of raiding is having some degree of progression, and raiding doesn't feel like something to work up to when clearing is basically a given if you put in the effort. Now Cataclysm is no mythic, I realise that, I've done mythics myself, I know what they're like, but it is also a far cry from Classic, where you kinda just walked in and if you've done the prep you one-shot everything. In fact, I go as far to say as though it's almost spoiled the endgame, if that's the right word, of expansions that came before it. It has an easy gearing process and you can get into raids fast. There's decent challenge from raids, it's not excessive but it's not face roll. The class design is overall great. Healing, which I re-rolled to this expansion, I'm playing 2 healers, is just straight up amazing and it just clears every expansion that's come before it. And the raids are also very rewarding. I'm raiding on more characters than I've done in any classic game so far in Kata, and I wouldn't be surprised if things stay that way the the content cadence is expected to go. Overall, raiding needs some degree of progression or difficulty for me. If it doesn't, the preparation that goes into raiding just kind of doesn't feel worth doing, because I'm not farming pre-bis or gold farming so that we have a better chance at killing the boss. I'm doing those things so that we kill it maybe 1 second faster, which is fine. Again, that's just how I feel about it. Obviously, there's a lot of people who enjoy this type of gameplay, and this isn't me trying to be the super elite gamer either, because there's mythic in retail. If I really wanted hard content first and foremost, I would be doing that. I just like the mix between your typical vanilla gameplay and something more advanced. But here's the thing, there will be different difficulty levels in Season of Discovery. We know that Molten Core will have heat levels. They could end up being a big challenge for all we know. I mean, take a look at Sunken Temple back at the start of Phase 3. It was genuinely hard. They nerfed Shade of Irenicus's health by over 50% not long after people started really getting into the raid. So maybe this heat level thing will be challenging. So what's the problem there then? Well, it's pretty simple. Difficulty and world buffs do not mix. You can have a raid that's hard, but you can't give players a 30% damage buffer if you wipe once it's gone. You know the Vantus Rune system in retail? In brief, it's an item made through inscription, and you can use it on a boss and you gain some bonus versatility, which broadly means do more damage, take less damage. This is active for the rest of the reset, but you only get to use one of them per reset. So imagine there's one boss which is causing you problems, everyone uses their Vantus on it, and it gives you that little bonus you need to get the kill. Now imagine your Vantus Rune gave you a 30% damage boost, but it's just for one pull. But then you go and pull the boss and somebody messes up that one-shot mechanic that you just can't mess up and you end up wiping, and well, bad luck, try again next week. That's what world buffs are for me. Even in a hypothetical world where world buffs were given inside of a raid for free, there's just so much extra power on our characters now through runes, gear and consumes that it just feels like such overkill. Obviously at this point Blizzard are seeing the season through with this mechanic intact, but ultimately world buffs mean that raids can't be challenging, and as I've gone over before, unless a raid has some challenge, I'm going to get bored of it pretty fast. But I think that's about it for raids, because there's definitely been a few more things which I wish would have been looked into to some extent. So there is a catch-up system for skill books which were previously dropped in dungeon content, which can now be bought directly from vendors in Stormwind or Orgrimmar, but there's no catch-up for runes. The prospect of alts is still extremely unappealing. There's over 30 runes per character now, and some are difficult to get. A number of early game ones need 2 players. Paladin's Sheath of Light rune, for example, requires a full run of Scarlet Monastery Cathedral, and given the whole 150% bonus XP thing, people might not be going out of their way to get that done anymore. It seems strange that there's been some 8 months or so of this season existing, and if you want to re-roll or just, try a different class, you have to gather all of those 30 runes which have existed since the game was put out. You're going to be running around for hours. Literally hours and hours to do this. You would have thought this phase would have been a good opportunity to at least make runes that are gained in the same way across multiple characters easier to get. Again, they could be planning something for the future, but I think the player base would benefit from this. I've mentioned it once or twice in videos now. The Blackrock Mountain event also seems to have proven pretty controversial so far. So it has a 50% uptime, and when it's active, a bunch of high-level elementals spawn in zones around Blackrock Mountain. Typically, you'll want to go and quest in Searing Gorge around level 50, which is coincidentally the level your character would have been by the end of last phase, but this update makes it so half the time you can't really quest in the zone because high level mobs spawn and then actively start to kill off the questing mobs. So I guess you just go somewhere else, I suppose? I'm also seeing a ton of posts about how disruptive the event is on PvP servers. So again, whilst this event is active, which is half the time, inside Blackrock Mountain you gain 3 times honor, which makes this an extremely good honor farm. So for people who care about ranking, you're incentivized to go and camp people inside of Blackrock Mountain. So I don't know if you played Vanilla's re-release back in phase 2 when world PvP first came out, but it was done without battlegrounds, so open world PvP was the only way to rank up, and the world turned into absolute chaos. On some servers it would take you a good 30 to 45 minutes or more to get from a Thorium point to inside a dungeon in Blackrock Mountain. And as novel as it was at the start, the novelty wore off really fast. Blizzard ended up releasing Battlegrounds early, so people went there to rank, but it, without exaggeration, completely killed off factions on a number of servers. Now in Season of Discovery, Blizzard are trying this forced faction balance thing where transfers are only open occasionally, which means if nothing changes, you're going to be stuck on your server enduring a basically endless meat grinder inside a BRM for the rest of Season of Discovery. Because if this remains one of the best ways to gain honor, which it probably will do, I don't see a reason it would stop. And we have rank 14 to look forwards to at some point in the future. And though faction balance may be 50-50 on a server overall, once your faction controls the mountain, it's really difficult for any unorganized group to retake it, because when you resurrect in World of Warcraft, you resurrect with basically no health whatsoever, and after you've died about 3 times in a row, you need to sit there and wait for 2 minutes for some reason between each res. Basically, Blizzard have taken a reason that people quit in Phase 2 of Classic, and a reason a number of servers died, and they've made it into a feature. Saying this, every single PvP event in Season of Discovery has undergone changes, and I'd suggest that open world PvP should never really be the best source of honor, and that you need to keep people inside of Battlegrounds, or it just ends up getting pretty degenerate. And I'm not surprised to see there has already been an update here. Blizzard are adding the Drained of Blood aura from the STV PvP event. This will make it so you'll need to do way less res runs to get to where you need to be inside the mountain, and you won't instantly die when you exit an instance portal anymore. This should definitely take some of the problems out of the event on PvP servers, but I still think it's going to be pretty active for the remainder of the season. I've said it before, but Blizzard really need to put a warning on new character creation on PvP servers. They inevitably get extremely degenerate because of the complete lack of restrictions on PvP PvP. Now some people love that, which is absolutely fine, but I think it might make enough people think twice, rather than just having the expectation that, oh, this game's been out forever, you should understand what you're getting yourself into. I don't know why you'd treat potentially new players like that. Anyways, those are my initial thoughts on Phase 4. I know it's not all positive so far, but I just wanted to get it out there and see how other people are feeling about it. As mentioned earlier, I'll still level at least one character to 60, just very casually, do some dungeons, and get a general impression of the patch, so I can get a first-hand experience of what it's all like. But that's it. Let me know your thoughts on Phase 4 so far. Have you come back to the game? Are you giving it a miss? Is it going well for you? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you on the next one very soon.